It's time to talk the world's game from an American perspective. Presented by Three Lions Pub, you're listening to Two Up Front, where we focus on all things American soccer, from the NWSL, MLS, U.S. national teams, and all the way to the youth levels. Now in the studio, your hosts, Baxter Colburn and Simon Provan.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Two Up Front here at the Attention Era Media Studios. We are presented by Three Lions Pub. We welcome you inside the studios. I am Baxter Colburn.
And I'm Simon Provan.
A very good day to you, Simon Provan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome, Baxter. I am an uncle again, so congratulations. Thank you.
I feel like we should toast or throw something, or I don't know. It's an exciting time.
Very exciting. So congratulations to my sister Joy. And her soon-to-be husband, Troy. Declan.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah. So a very healthy kid.
Good.
Got to visit him yesterday morning for a little while.
Fantastic.
And absolutely loved it. So, I'm doing fantastic.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Uncle Simon.
Thank you, Baxter. Appreciate it.
I feel like everyone's got an Uncle Simon. I don't. But maybe you can be my pseudo-Uncle Simon, maybe. Be like,
Sounds
my
good.
Uncle Simon. Well, we've got a great show in store for you folks today. We're going to be joined in our second segment live in the studio by Milwaukee Torrent head coach and owner Andy Davi. He's got some exciting news about the expansion of the club. He'll give us a little bit of an insight into the Torrent season this upcoming year as well, too. So that'll be coming up in about 8 or so minutes. And then, of course, we're going to be joined by FC Kansas City forward Shea Groom as well, too. We pre-recorded the interview a couple of days ago. Phenomenal interview. Probably one of the best I think we've ever had on Two Up Front. So good to hear from her as well, too. And all of her thoughts about the upcoming NWSL season.
Yeah, absolutely. Leading goal scorer last year for FC Kansas City. Talked about her time at A&M. Very interesting interview. It's actually gone quasi-viral already.
It has.
So if you haven't checked it out, make sure you stay tuned to listen in.
Absolutely. And, of course, if you ever miss our show live here on Brew Sports, you can also get it on our Facebook page, Two Up Front. You can go to our website, twoupfrontsoccer.com, and, of course, here on Brew Sports and brewsportsnet.com as well.
Yeah, check us out on Facebook, Two Up Front, and of course we're on Twitter as well, at Two Up Front Soccer. I am at Baxter Colburn. No, I'm at Simon Provan.
Are you? No wonder I keep getting all these acting tweets being Simon Provan. I was always wondering.
I switched it around today. Usually I say whatever. Anyways.
Well, you know who we are by now. If you don't know who we are, well, that's on you. No, I'm just kidding. We love all of you. All right, Simon, time for the kick around, time to dive right into the world of soccer. Not a lot of MLS stuff to talk about. The only really small thing about MLS I want to talk about just really fast is all the injuries. People seem to be injured left and right here.
Yes.
Sebastian Lletget is hurt now for a while.
6 months.
That's insane. That's a huge blow to the Galaxy now.
Big blow to the Galaxy. It was not a big blow to the U.S. in regards to that Honduras game, but definitely could have used them in Panama. Mm-hmm. Josef Martinez, big one for
that was a big one.
Atlanta United. He's out 4 to 6 weeks after getting injured on international duty with Venezuela.
Those are the big ones. I mean, aside from that, there was 4 players that left U.S. national team camp with injuries, which is a little concerning and makes you kind of question the level of play that Honduras was kind of throwing at the United States. Obviously, it didn't help them because they still lost 6-0, but very interesting to see all of these injuries kind of piling up early on in the season.
Well, and that's another big one for Houston Dynamo. Kyoto getting injured for Honduras against the U.S. He's been very important to the Houston Dynamo. So I do think the Dynamo, they have other players that can step in. Machado is one of them.
Yes.
Put him up front instead of playing in the midfield. So I think Houston could be okay. But for the energy that he has brought to Houston, Dynamo are going to have to really shuffle things around.
And the Dynamo certainly one of those surprise teams in Major League Soccer thus far this season, and we'll have to see now the first real test. Everybody looks great on paper once you start the season, but once those injuries, that's really where you start testing just how good is Atlanta United going to be now without one of their star players here in Martinez. How good will the Dynamo be? How good will the Galaxy be now too? Lletget was one of the shining stars for a young budding Galaxy team. So definitely 3 teams to keep a close eye on.
Well, and one thing we did see, not injury-wise, but we do see how much the Timbers actually do depend on Darling Tignably not being there in the midfield against that Columbus Crew team, who they ended up losing to, of course.
A little surprised by that,
3-2. I thought Timbers looked pretty decent almost that whole game. Crew surprised a lot of people and ended up getting that win against Portland.
Yes, indeed. Well, from an international perspective, there was a lot of World Cup qualifiers taking place over the last couple of days. Of course, the United States. We'll talk about them a little bit more in depth after a little bit later on in the show. But there's some other games that you were talking about in CONCACAF, off the air at least. You're talking about some, whether they were good calls or bad calls or just general things that apply to the United States as a whole moving forward.
No, they were bad calls, Baxter.
There's really no way else to look at it.
Every World Cup qualifying cycle, we see teams get what I've always referred to as CONCACAF'd.
Yes.
We saw two
Always.
teams get CONCACAF'd last night. It's 0-0 Trinidad taking on Mexico. In Trinidad scores perfectly good goal. Jovian Jones gets in there, puts the ball in the back of the net. You even saw the Mexican players hang their heads for a quick second.
Yep.
But instead, this mysterious offside call is made.
The elusive, mysterious, invisible offsides call.
Go back and look at the film. You'll see that Jones was perfectly onside. Goal should have stood, and you wonder what that would have done to Mexico had they been going possibly into halftime 1-0. But then we also, I think this is the most bizarre thing that we saw, Costa Rica taking on, was it Honduras? Yes, Honduras. Yes. They ended up drawing 1-1. Right before halftime, Costa Rica gets a call. They have an opportunity in their attacking half of the field. They go to take the restart, and the ref blows the whistle for halftime.
That was always one of my biggest pet peeves, and I know that this isn't real life, but when I play FIFA, Simon, my biggest pet peeve is like the referee is blowing whistles before halftime on a counterattack or on corner kicks. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Now to see it in real life, I was really confused when I saw this take place.
I can't say only in CONCACAF, but it certainly feels like that at times. So only in Baxter's FIFA games and only in CONCACAF.
Come on, FIFA.
Do we see,
together.
and again, a game that ends up drawing 1-1. In a way, it helped the U.S. because the U.S. is now sitting, and we'll get into this later, but the U.S. is sitting in that playoff spot now, which is important with, with their goal differential over Honduras now being +1 to Honduras -2, something like that. So they ended up working away in favor of the U.S. But one thing I'll say, and I know we got to move on here, is Mexico's punched their ticket as far as I'm concerned to Russia. There's no doubt about it. Undefeated, almost maximum points. They're there.
I almost want to phrase this as a possible question. How bad would it be for soccer if Mexico didn't qualify for a World Cup? I know they're obviously going to right now, but like hypothetically, if Mexico had just had a terrible qualifying, would the World Cup be less special because Mexico isn't there?
The thing about Mexico, they always tend to move on into the second round.
That's true.
And they tend to lose in the second round.
Consistently.
I don't know if there would be less glimmer for the World Cup per se, but definitely I would say for CONCACAF. Listen, we almost saw that the last time around. If the U.S. if Graham Susie hadn't scored that 90-second stoppage time goal.
Sanzusi, they were calling him.
That's right. Mexico's in the World Cup because of that. Well, they still had to go on to that playoff, but because of that, Mexico made it. And they did talk about, for Mexico as a country, billions of dollars would have been lost in their economy had Mexico not made the World Cup.
I just can't even imagine. Like, you really realize just how important going to a World Cup actually is. And when you really break it down, I mean, in the United States, like, yes, if the United States doesn't go, the true soccer fans get upset. But, like, the economies you mentioned of, like, a Costa Rica or a Mexico, or, like, they literally run on soccer, just takes a massive hit. And that's why you see these guys playing with their heart on their sleeve, because they're like, we literally have nothing else. Like, we have to win. And to see something like that, I think, is very commendable. So good luck. Good luck to Mexico the rest of the way, honestly.
Just real quick, Baxter, talking about competitions, I'm officially ahead of you in the predictions.
Did you finally take me over this week? Yes.
One game.
There it is.
3-3, and you were 1-5.
Well, let's be honest, though. I mean, did Canada win? They drew.
No, they drew.
I was about to
Scotland
say they drew. Look at that. The native land.
1-1 draw.
The Canadians are probably apologizing the whole time. Like, sorry, guys. Sorry about that. Oh, my Lord. I love the Canadians.
Three Lions Pub in Milwaukee, Wisconsin is just the place for me. They've got everything. Great pub food, a wonderful selection of draft beers, and a brilliant atmosphere, especially during Premier League matches. Check out the Three Lions Pub menu at threelionspub.com, where you can also find all their specials and the great events that take place throughout the year. Three Lions Pub, where across the pond is now across the street.
All right, well, let's move along with the show, Simon. For those of you that know, Simon and I serve as the broadcast team for the Milwaukee Torrent. Last season, we had the opportunity to be a part of the inaugural season for Andy Davi and the Milwaukee Torrent. They were able to go out and take home a lot of silverware last year, which, to an extent, some people maybe didn't know what to expect when you bring in an expansion franchise or when you start a new team. people don't always know what to expect. But Andy Davi had the dream, had the idea, and he has come out swinging since day one. And now he's going to be joining us here in the studio in just a brief moment to help us recap last season briefly, but also to help make some new announcements as well, too. So a very good day to you, Coach Davi. How are we doing today, sir?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely.
Simon, same.
It's been far too long, I feel like, since we've had Andy on the show. It should be a rule or something. Every couple of weeks we have.
Although I don't know if it's if Andy has anything to do with this, but the last time he was on, we were in the other upgraded studios.
That's
true. And now he's on again, and we're in an even more upgraded studio.
And I was thinking about this morning too on my way here. I'm like, every move that we've had for Two Up Front, Andy's always followed us. He's been there with us.
That's right.
From the little closet basically back at WLC to now here at Brew Sports.
Yeah.
And those Germans are loyal.
Yeah. Well, speaking of loyalty, Andy, I mean, you continue to just pour your heart and soul out for the city of Milwaukee when it comes to soccer. I know last season, of course, was very successful on numerous fronts. I mean, a couple of championships for you folks, for the Torrent as a whole. Really briefly, I mean, now that you've really had a full, a couple of months to digest what took place last season, how amazing, when you really look at it, was last year for you in the Torrent?
I didn't really have so much time because
it was quick. It was really quick.
There's still a lot of stuff that you have to plan and get ready for the new season. But I mean, it's again, I think I said it to one of the shows before. I think you only realize this when you go to the town or drive somewhere and suddenly you see somebody who wears a Torrent cap or a Torrent shirt, or people that you actually do not know or you don't belong. To the people that you consider friends, and then all those followers on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the stuff that's going on there. It's pretty amazing. And but again, and I said this in one of the things when I talked actually with Jimmy Carlson. I said, to start something like this, you really have to be enthusiastic about this. But then to be successful and to stay successful, you need to be patient.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And I think even as a German, I was patient, and it's going really well.
So you got quite a few players returning this year. You also signed quite a few in the off season as well. So I wonder if you can talk about some of the players that are returning that you're excited to have back. Doesn't mean those other players you're not excited to have back, of course. But then some of the new signings and how you feel they're going to help the Torrent this upcoming season.
Yeah, we had obviously at the trials that we did already October, November, much more player than the last time. But being successful, you also draw more talent.
Which is ultimately the first goal, I felt like.
Yeah, correct. So were tough tryouts. But still were pretty good. We found players at the tryouts, like Mark Hutchinson, who is from Sun Prairie, Isaac Pereira, who played in Mexico for Club America and Cruz Azul. When you play in those clubs as a youth soccer, I mean, you can kick the ball. And then we have Archie Sewer, who we added a little bit later, who played in North Dakota last season. A really fast player that we are glad to have. But about the returning players, we offered every player to come back, obviously, because it was just tremendous, and some things don't work out. You need to commit to this. Obviously, the schedule this year is much busier than last year, with 14 games in 7 weeks that we have to get in. You have practice and stuff. Some of the guys coaches. But yeah, I mean, we're glad to have those guys back, and we have to prove exactly what we did last year, what will be harder this year, because the competition will be tougher.
Are there any names from last season that fans aren't going to are not going to be able to see this upcoming season?
Well, James Weber and Ian Bennett and Aaron Horvath are not playing with us this year.
Okay.
James moved to Minnesota. During the season, he's going to get married and goes on honeymoon.
Congratulations to him. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunately he couldn't move that, but yeah, he moved up there. But he's going to move back to Milwaukee end of the summer, and that's good.
So season off potentially, but a possible open door for him to come back, though.
Correct. Absolutely. The door never closes unless you do something really bad.
Well, you've got some teams in this league now. It's no longer provisional. You are officially part of this conference, and of course, one of the highlights is one of the most well-supported lower division teams in American soccer, and that's Detroit City FC. I'm curious if you've had an opportunity to watch them play. I know there's been some Twitter spats between the clubs at times.
Well, it's not the clubs. There are some members from Detroit and Lansing. They created fake Twitter accounts for the Torrent, and Yeah. So it's just stuff that we move on. We stay positive. We don't react to this.
Sure.
I mean, you have a block button
that
you can use. And
but are you excited at all to be? When you go there, you're potentially playing in front of 5,000 people at Detroit.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is great. That's what you want. That's what you want when you play soccer. You want to play in front of thousands of people. I mean, that's what we live for. That's why we love the game. That's why we do the tournament. We want to bring that exact time, same amount of people. We want to have them in the stands too. And obviously, I told the players, all right, I think it will be with all respect, it will be most challenging to play in front of those people than probably a team. The team itself,
Exactly.
Because that has a big impact when you play in front of 4,000 or 5,000 people, and Grand Rapids draws, I think, 3,000 people. So it will be fun. We're totally excited about it, and obviously our first away game is directly in Detroit.
Of course, starting off with a bang, basically.
I'm excited. I know the owners. The owners actually came 2011 to Milwaukee. And they took a look how I run the NPSL program here for the Bavarian Soccer Club. So there is a little bit of history between me and them.
Okay. So. Possible friendly rivalry, maybe moving forward.
I mean, I have no problem with them. It's just...
Well, Andy, big news, speaking of leagues, there's going to be a new league in Milwaukee next year with a new team. The WPSL. WPSL will be represented in Milwaukee by Milwaukee Torrent women's team.
Correct.
Big announcement for you just a few days ago on another television show. Tell us about this. How did this come about, and what are you looking most forward to?
Yeah, I feel like you weren't busy enough, so you're like, you know what, I got to do more. Had to put a whole other team in here.
Well, I mean, when we remember, and we guys talked several times about it, I said I would like that all the kids who play soccer, that they have something to look up to.
Yes.
So we took care of the men's program. Now I need to take care of the women's program, and I have actually the franchise already since months.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, we just waited for the right time to announce it, and it was great that it was on TV. Like I said, with all the Division I colleges, or all the colleges that we have, not even this. I think it's 12,000 registered girls who play in southeast Wisconsin.
I mean, you would know more about that than I.
We have a total of
there,
over 40,000 kids who play soccer. It was logical that this is the next step for us, and I knew when I started this, and I talked with the board, it was I wanted to do the same thing that I did with the men's program. We're going to announce it now. We're going to build the program up for 1 year. It stays as an amateur as for now, but also we keep it open to do this professional later.
Interesting. I mean, and Simon and I talk a lot about the NWSL on the show. Is that, I mean, you literally just announced this, but is that a potential future goal, is to maybe be an expansion side in that regards? I know obviously there's the money and everything that goes into that, but is that the goal, or is it going to be the WPSL for a couple of years?
It's absolutely the goal. I mean, let's stay for a few years in the WPSL. I mean, you have great competition. We will be in the Heartland division with Chicago, the Red Stars.
Oh, sure.
With the Twin Stars from Minnesota, Des Moines Menace, and then 2 teams from Kansas City. So
and this is a league too that has over 100 teams in it as well too. So you're experiencing high caliber players left and right. So that's only going to make your team better as well.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, that's phenomenal. I mean, I think that's something that I think Milwaukee needed. I think you've already been kind of a pioneer with trying to bring professional outdoor soccer. Now that you've got the women's side as well there too. I mean, I think that's very commendable. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you as well too. Honestly. Anything else, Simon? I mean, there's some great stuff obviously coming up. I mean, you've got your Brenner Brewing. An event right at the end of the month in April.
Correct.
That's going to be a big thing. Season tickets, are they still available as well?
Season tickets are still available. It is the last week. We actually have this Sunday a welcome party in Tosa at Les Lucky Town, where some of the players will be there. It's the last time to get season tickets.
Okay.
And then the big season opening party at Brenner's.
That's exciting. I'm hopefully coming by on Sunday if I can work out the schedule
that would
with
be
the
great.
wife. So.
I will be in Wisconsin Dells, speaking of soccer, coaching my younger daughter.
Well, Andy, we appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Thanks for having us.
On 2 Up Front, and we hope to have you back again as well soon.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Right, thank you, Andy.
Next up here on 2 Up Front, we had an opportunity earlier in the week to sit down and have a conversation with FC Kansas City forward Shea Groom. Shea is a young, budding talent. She spent her college days down at Texas A&M. Simon did his very best to keep his manners together in that one, even though he's got that hook 'em horns pride. But aside from that, though, Shea, a phenomenal interview, somebody that really is going to be a pioneer for women's soccer as a whole moving forward. really, when you break it down, Shea is one of those players that you want to cheer for. You want her to be successful, and you'll be able to kind of pick that up from the interview as a whole too. I mean, as you really kind of start to take it all in for what she's capable of doing. When you really break it down, she was the leading goal scorer, as we mentioned last season as well, too, for FC Kansas City. So a phenomenal talent, someone that is really going to be a focal point for FC Kansas City going this season. But how will she fit in, though? Will she fit in with Sydney Leroux? Will she fit in with Amy Rodriguez now that she's had a season off without having to deal with them? So there's a lot of question marks in that regards that still have yet to be answered. But ultimately, at the end of the day, Shea certainly is going to be a player that is going to bring a lot to FC Kansas City in this upcoming season. Simon, I mean, when you really look at it and you talk about what she is capable of doing, I mean, how do you view a player like Shea Groom moving forward?
Yeah, I think I think you said it perfectly, Baxter. There's a bit of a wild card in that with Sydney Leroux coming back, and we do ask Shea about this, but with Sydney Leroux coming back, playing all over the place, you can plug Sydney in anywhere, so you wonder if that'll affect Shea at all. Of course, Amy Rodriguez playing up top. That's actually what I'm most interested to see. If you have Amy Rodriguez and Shea Groom playing together, you're talking about
everybody. Welcome to a special
lot of
edition
firepower
of Two Up Front as we do a great interview
for
here
FC Kansas City, which of course Shea did lead the team in scoring. But you look at other leading scorers on teams. Shea did have 8 goals. She didn't have a great amount of support. Now, Kansas City, I think, still surprised people last season that even though they finished just outside of the playoffs, I think they finished higher than a lot of people thought they would. Again, when you're missing key players like Amy Rodriguez and Sydney Leroux, and Shea Groom is probably one of the main reasons why you saw that happen. So we'll continue to see the developments with FC Kansas City. All NWSL teams now have started their preseasons. One of the teams that we do talk about in the interview with Shea, of course, is the Boston Breakers. Boston has been outstanding in this preseason. Now, granted, most of these teams are playing against are playing against college teams. So because of that, looking at these preseason results may not be telling us a true picture. But I'll tell you what, Baxter, I would say let's not wait any longer. Let's get to that interview with Shea. I think we've teased the people long enough. And here is our interview that we have pre-recorded with FC Kansas City's Shea Groom.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Two Up Front as we do a great interview here for you. As you already know, our show airs here on Wednesdays on Bruce Sports from 10 to 11 a.m. Central Time, but occasionally we get the opportunity to do some great pre-recorded interviews for you that we bring live on the air. Today we've got another great interview, Simon. It's been a couple of weeks since we've had an NWSL player on the show, but we get to offer the fans somebody really awesome today, actually.
Yeah, it's our show's really been missing that NWSL angle, so I'm so excited to get back to talking to NWSL as well as the player we're about to have on the show.
You're absolutely right. Yes, we have the opportunity today to speak with the leading goal scorer from FC Kansas City last season. She wears the number 2. It is Shea Groom, and she joins us on the shopfutsal.com call-in line now. Shea, good day to you. Welcome to Two Up Front. How are you today?
I'm good. Just happy to talk to you guys, and yeah, I'm excited.
Well, we're excited to have you on the program today, Shea. First and foremost, congratulations on leading your team in goals last year with 8 as a whole. Definitely no small feat, especially when you've got gals like Amy Rodriguez and Sydney Leroux not present for the whole season. What's your kind of your quick review of how you thought 2016 went as a whole, especially with your success in the goals department?
Yeah, definitely. I think 2016 was a growing year individually and also as an organization for FC Kansas City. Obviously, we were missing some of the players we had in that championship season the year before, and we were missing players like Sid and A-Rod who were out creating their own little family. So it was quite the adjustment, I would say. I learned a lot just by playing a one front and getting that opportunity to get a lot of experience, a lot of minutes, and a lot of games. And luckily I was fortunate enough to score a few goals and get some experience in that light too. And I think that's going to carry over into this next season. It definitely carried over into my off season. So I was really happy with the way it went personally. Obviously as a team, I would have liked us to go to the playoffs and make another championship run, but just wasn't in the cards for us last year.
Yeah, not too far off making the playoffs, finished with 26 points. Western New York Flash, who was the 4th seed, finished with 32. But talking about 2017. I'm curious if Coach has talked to you at all about Amy Rodriguez coming back, of course, being able to pair up with you up top. Sydney Leroux kind of plays all over the place. Wondering what you're most looking forward to in 2017 and how Coach might use you this upcoming season.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what our offense looks like this year. We've obviously been in preseason for a couple weeks now, and I had the pleasure of training with Sid all off season. So we kind of got to build a chemistry and a connection during those few months in the off season. And now having A-Rod back, it's kind of just fitting the puzzle together and see how we work best with each other on the field. Played a couple preseason games, and I think we're starting to make those partnerships, make those connections, and build that chemistry between us three on the front line. But I think we're still trying to figure out, the mobility between all three of us and, maybe where we fit best on the field. So it's exciting, though, last year I felt like a little bit on my own, a little bit on an island, and a lot of the pressure and the goal-scoring pressure sometimes leaning on me. But I think this year it can come at all angles, and you're kind of going to be surprised, and we're going to keep defenses on their toes because they don't really know where it's going to come from.
Talking with Shea Groom here on Two Up Front. Shea, you had a very unique opportunity to lead the team in goals last season. Aside from that, you also led the team in red cards last season as well. I don't necessarily know if that's something that you should be proud of or not, but is that your first professional red card that you were issued last year?
Yes, I can say I have not had a red card in a long time, but it was not my first ever. But
okay, you don't really strike me sadly, as a very mad person, so I guess I don't know how that how you get a red card seems a little puzzling to me.
I am small but fierce. I think my passion and my intensity often comes off as maybe something more than it is. But I just think that I'm a very passionate player, and it shows in how aggressive and intense I am on the field. If there's a ball in front of the goal, I'm likely going to go for it. So sadly, it gets me in a lot of probably controversial tackles, but nothing ill will towards any of the players that are involved in those situations.
Well, speaking of being tough on the ball, being tough on the field, I do have to ask you, have had a couple of teammates called up to the U.S. national team for these April friendlies. Of course, forward, the team is stacked at forward, but I do have to ask you, have you had any conversations with Jill Ellis considering how well you did last year and how things could be looking for this year?
Yeah, I went into camp back in October, and obviously that was a big dream of mine. So to be able to go to that level and get a taste of it and see what it's like was a great opportunity for me, I think, as a player. Obviously, you get there, and it's way different than you could have ever prepared for, and I don't think that I was quite prepared when I got there. But I've been able to take what Jill has said and come back home in the off season, build some confidence, and train like I know I would have to train at that level. So I think going forward, she's made it clear that she's going to be at the NWSL game. She's going to be picking players from the NWSL pool. So I think if I can do similar to what I did last year and work well with some of the other national team players that are also part of SC Kansas City, then, I have a good shot in the future to be called up and to be considered in the years going forward.
Well, we're talking about the future here with the U.S. Women's National Team, but I also have to talk about your past. Now, I have to confess something to you, Shea. I went to the University of Texas, so I hope you don't hold that against me too much. You went to A&M. You were part of a very historic team at A&M, considered probably the best in the school's history, 2014. Wondering if you could take us back to that time and how special that program and team was to you.
Yes, A&M is my home. I try to go out, visit there every off season. It is just truly a special place for me, and definitely that class, those 9 players that were there, from day one to our last day on campus. It was just special to be able to be the first team to get to the Final Four. I mean, A&M has been to the NCAA tournament for 20 plus years now in a row. Just an amazing streak. So to be able to finally be that first team that made the College Cup was such a special experience. Obviously, I wish it could have ended differently, but to be able to set that goal back my junior year and then to follow through and finally see it come to fruition on my senior year. It was just incredible, and that's a special place, special program with G, Phil, and Lori there. Still the coaches, been the coaches for years. So they're like family to me, and I still call them weekly. So A&M will always be a special place for me, and definitely that class of 9 that finished in the College Cup in 2014.
One of the things that I feel like when you talk about women's college soccer, folks always talk about UNC as being the powerhouse. Do you feel, as someone that has gone through all the success that you did while you were at Texas A&M, that Texas A&M just doesn't really get the same kind of national exposure as we see the Tar Heels and other big programs like Stanford and others?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know when I was getting recruited, I had no idea what Texas A&M was. So, it definitely didn't have that kind of reputation, but I think it's being considered in the talk now, and I think that is such a credit to the foundation that the players before me have laid, and for us to be able to get into that College Cup kind of put us on the map. And historically, we have great records. We have winning seasons, and we're always in the NCAA tournament. So I think it's such a strong program, but we're still looking to build that championship status, like a North Carolina who, started off really strong in its early years and was able to continue to build the program, and a lot of the ACC schools. But I think A&M has made its name in the SEC now, being there for 3 or 4 years, and my class being able to make it to the College Cup, I think really has set a tone for what Texas A&M soccer is and what it will be going forward.
Well, talking about setting a tone, let's look ahead to your first regular season game. This is April 16th, taking on the Boston Breakers. Both clubs here are going to be searching for an identity early in the season. Boston Breakers making a tremendous amount of changes in the offseason. Of course, your team getting some players back that hadn't been there for the last year. What can we expect to see come April 16th?
The funny thing about the NWSL is any team can win on any given day. So, often I think last year Boston was often noted the bottom of the bracket, the team that, you should beat, but they showed up and beat us twice. So I think for a club and as an organization, we're going to be definitely looking to get a first win. I don't know if you guys know this, but FC Kansas City has not won their first game in the history of the NWSL. So we're
I did not know that. No. Wow.
The W on the first game. So it's kind of like the joke. We don't want to call it a joke because we'd really like to have a win, but we've found a way to have 2 championship seasons without a win on the first day. So I think for us, it will definitely be looking to, just play our game, put things together, and get a W for the first time. But I think also, Boston has always given us a great game, and looking at their roster and the players that they've gotten in the draft and players that they've traded for, I think they'll be a really great side, and so I'm looking forward to that.
Well, you had 15 career game-winning goals while at A&M. You've had scored a tremendous amount of goals for FC Kansas City. So I personally want to, Shea, wish you the best of luck on getting another game-winning goal and perhaps that W on day 1 of the season.
It's definitely going to be an intriguing game, to say the least. I mean, you and I have talked about it a lot, about what Boston has done in the offseason and just what the entire NWSL has done as a whole, too. Shea, really fast before we let you go, we've tried to ask everybody that we've had on the show from an NWSL perspective about their thoughts on the new TV deal with the A&E networks. How have you viewed the deal, and how do you feel like it will benefit the league as well going forward?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a great starting point. Obviously, we've worked really hard to get exposure and just get our games out there, because I think that's what's missing, is people understanding that there are ways to watch our games and there are ways to watch women's soccer, and it's good soccer. So I think it'll be really important for us to have this TV deal, have announcers that are consistent and, just better quality. So, and I think, just being on that network is going to be really important for the demographic, and the people that want to be watching our games will have access to it. So I'm really excited about it, and I think our fans are too. So it's a good step in the right direction. Hopefully you can get all the games on there at some point, but I'm really excited, and I think just everybody in the NWSL is also really excited.
All right, well, Shea, we appreciate you taking the time to join us on 2 Up Front today. We wish you the very best of luck on the upcoming season, and we look forward to hopefully having you back on the program as well here in the next couple of months if it works out.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. There goes Shea Groom on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. Thanks so much for joining us for this special interview. Remember, you can catch the full edition of Two Up Front this coming Wednesday on the Brew Sports Network. Just go to Brew Sports on Facebook and like that page, and you can check us out on Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central Time, live right here on Brew Sports. For Simon Provan, I'm Baxter Colburn. We'll see you guys back here on Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your week, everyone. And welcome back inside the studio here on Two Up Front.
You changed so quickly. It was
I did.
Like instantaneous.
Just boom, bam. Whew. Like I went from a plaid shirt to back to my jacket. It's amazing what you can do with TV camera.
It's impressive.
Magic.
It's impressive, Baxter.
Don't tell anybody. I'm very quick, okay? I had D3 speed back in the day, Simon. People were like, whoa, he's so fast. What an amazing interview. Shea is probably, I mean, I've always appreciated Shea Groom, but now I am an actual fan of Shea Groom.
Sure, absolutely.
My goodness, like one of the sweetest people you will ever talk to in your life, and just so genuine and so driven and so successful at such a young age but it doesn't really like get to her head like, yeah, I led the team in goals last year, but because I knew that I had to step up and rise to the occasion, not like, well, yeah, because I'm the best player on the team. Clearly, that's why I scored the most goals.
Exactly, right. Yeah, very, very down to earth. I mean, even the way she talked about Texas A&M and how proud she still is of that program, that she gets back there every single year. I mean, that says a lot about somebody who knows where they came from, understands their roots, and is always willing to give back, which is a cool thing to see.
You're absolutely right about that. NWSL preseason still very much in full swing. We'll get into that a little bit more next week. Can we tell people who our interview is next week, or should we wait?
I think we should let them know,
let the folks know. So it is officially confirmed. We will be joined next Wednesday on the program by NWSL number 1 overall draft pick out of the University of Wisconsin, Rose Lavelle. She will be joining us here on the program. She is a member of the Boston Breakers, a member of the U.S. Women's National Team. She will be here with us next week.
A breakout performance at the She Believes Cup. Rose
Unbelievable.
Lavelle.
So I'm excited. Hopefully, I mean, she's already a really quick gal, so I'm hoping we can keep up with her. So we'll have to see, because she'll probably just fly all over the place, but because of how fast she is.
That's right.
But,
I see what you did there.
I was going to say, I was like, you're looking at me like, what are you talking about? But like, I'm trying to tell that she's really funny and fast. But anyway, Rose Lavelle, she'll be here next week with us. So make sure you tune in here, of course, on Two Up Front on Brew Sports at 10 a.m. Central Time to catch that interview. All right, moving along, staying with the national team, but going to the men's side of things. The United States had 2 crucial World Cup qualifying games over the last week, basically. They had to take on Honduras and they had to take on Panama. I thought Honduras was going to be the difficult game. I thought this was going to be a very close game. I thought it was going to be maybe a 1-1 or a 2-1 sort of game. I think I actually called a draw in that game, in our predictions, yes. And I thought the U.S. was going to run over Panama. Turns out that they decided to listen to us and be like, we're going to do completely opposite.
Well, they listened to you.
Yes.
Right? I had predicted, I think, a 3-1 scoreline on the Honduras game. My whole thing was that Bruce Arena's back. He's going to bring that fighting spirit back to the team that we haven't seen in a while. A lot of players have actually come out and said that as well, is we've got a spirit about this team that we just haven't had in so long. And I think it is a good example of an American coach understanding that American mentality. And that's, again, I'm not making a comment whatsoever, any xenophobic thoughts or anything like that, because I realize we do have nationalized Americans on the team as well.
Absolutely.
But Bruce Arena got everybody back into that mode of believing that we can take on anybody, we can beat anybody. And Honduras is not a world power, but they were in the last World Cup.
Yes.
And
they've gotten even better in the last year and a half.
Exactly.
So their best players are tearing through Major League Soccer right
Listen,
now.
That was the second highest scoreline of any World Cup qualifying game in CONCACAF history, Baxter. So it goes to show, and this is the Hex, right? So, or not World Cup qualifying history, but in the Hex history,
yes.
Which I think goes back to 1998. So we're talking about a 20-year history here. So we saw Bruce Arena bring that to the team. We saw a team that Bruce Arena had to fill in holes with both times,
yes.
Especially in the Panama game, but even in that Honduras game, not having Fabian Johnson. So, having to do some patchwork, and the team still comes out, puts in a solid performance. Defensively, still some holes that we saw, but going forward, you can't ask for a better performance than that.
How do you put into words the 4 goals in 2 games from Clint Dempsey? This is a guy that I thought was going to be maybe a shell of himself. I know he's recovered from the heart issues that he was having. You have something like that that's so vital to you as a human being. It's hard to say, okay, I'm going to go out and now be successful on a club and at national team level. And he showed that. He's like, look, I'm going to put the ball in the back of the net. I'm going to prove that I am still arguably the greatest player ever to play for the men's national team. I feel like this performance solidifies any sort of doubters that were out there about Clint Dempsey's form, his physical fitness, if he still cares about playing soccer. You score 4 goals in 2 massive games. You're obviously doing something right.
Baxter, he is 1 goal behind tying Landon Donovan's record for the U.S. national team. But on top of that, you asked me how do I put it into words? It's one word. It's unbelievable in the truest sense of the word. For a guy who had issues with his heart just 6 months ago, not having played in many games, to come out, get a hat trick in the first game, and then get a very crucial goal in Panama, that's simply it. It's unbelievable. But he played with a passion. He played with an intelligence. He knew where to be on the field. He was always there. But a key to that, too, is having a player like Christian Pulisic playing right behind you, feeding you those balls. I mean, I hate to say revelation, but for lack of a better phrase, what a revelation Christian Pulisic is for this U.S. men's national team.
Really, no matter how you break it down, you want to try to be like, listen, Christian Pulisic, he's still young, he's trying to learn the systems, what could he possibly do? This is a guy that is consistently playing in arguably one of the greatest leagues in the world. You're playing for Borussia Dortmund in the Bundesliga. Now he is here at the highest level that you can play for international soccer, and he's excelling. He's not floundering. This isn't some 18-year-old kid that's like, I like soccer. He is out there playing like a man among boys, and he is a vital part. And the veterans on the team are saying, we need him to be successful.
And it's not just the U.S. men's national team players that have noticed this. Everybody in CONCACAF have recognized it. Panama definitely recognized it. So what Panama did in this game, something effectively, but certainly things that, we're not a fan of this type of soccer, they just kept going at Pulisic, physically taking him out. I think he was fouled 4 times in a matter of 2 minutes at one point. And when you have a referee that's not giving out cards, players are going to keep coming at them. But I love what Bruce Arena said about Christian Pulisic, because Bruce was asked, how do you move forward with this? How does he adjust to this? And Bruce said, look, he's a player who plays for a big-time club in a big-time league in big-time competition. He'll adjust.
Literally, you look at the atmosphere you have to play in if you are a member of Borussia Dortmund. When you go play Bayern Munich or you even host a game as Borussia Dortmund, there are 70 to 80,000 people there screaming, good or bad. That's hard to play in. I don't care if they're all on your side. Like, if I've got 80,000 people, if they were here in the studio cheering me on, I'd be like, stop, I'm trying to focus. Like, you have to be so laser focused and so talented to put all of that aside. And even being targeted like he was as well, too. And I don't want to cause conspiracies, but the fact that the referees were from the Mexican side of things, and we know that Mexico has always had it out for the United States, not to play conspiracy theories, but at the same time, like, maybe that is why some calls were not going the United States way. Or
it does make
they
you
were
wonder.
Being more lenient with the tackles. The fair tackles on Pulisic. Like, that shouldn't happen. You need to protect the players.
You need to protect the players. Soccer needs to be soccer. It shouldn't become a hack fest. And if it's becoming a hack fest, then do what you're supposed to do as a referee and start pulling the cards out.
And ultimately, do you think the physicality is why this game ended in a 1-1 draw?
Well, I think it's part of it. The other part of it, too, Baxter, is this was like a step back in time. The condition of that field was horrendous.
It looked really bad.
Right. It was like watching a CONCACAF qualifier from 20 years ago. You're sitting on a field that's surrounded by a huge track again, so the fans are far away. And on top of that, though, is you look at the U.S.'s back line. They had Omar Gonzalez, Jorge Villafana, Tim Ream replacing Jonathan Brooks, Graham Suzy in for Jeff Cameron. Cameron played well in that Honduras game for the 60 minutes he was in. Ended up not playing against Panama. So part of this was, Baxter, this was the first time these 4 players have ever played together. The goal that Panama did end up scoring, there were a lot of little mistakes that happened in that long throw-in sequence that allowed Panama to get back into this one. It was interesting, some of the subs, seeing Bedoya come in for Nagbe. We did see the introduction of, I don't have it in front of me here, the substitute for Clint Dempsey, Areola? Areola?
Oh, Areola, yes.
Thank you. So we saw him get his first cap in World Cup qualifying. I don't know if there was a point in which Bruce Arena looked at this and thought Dempsey was getting tired, or if it really was a matter of him feeling comfortable with the 1-1 draw and saying, let's bleed some guys into this.
Well, one of the things that I'm a little concerned about is why guys like Walker Zimmerman and Dax McCarty didn't get a single minute. That would have been the time, I feel like, to try. Even in the Honduras game, like, look, guys, we were up already 3-0 at halftime. Dax McCarty, who was getting his, some of his first call-ups in a long time, give him the opportunity. A young guy like Walker Zimmerman. How often do we say, the young players, they don't know what it's like to play in CONCACAF? Give them an opportunity if you're up 3-0 like that, especially on the defensive side of things when you've already been getting guys beat up from an injury perspective. Why not go and, as you said, bleed some of those guys in? Those are two very young budding players. I mean, obviously Dax is a little bit older, but you're giving them guys that literally just want to support their country and just play for their country. Why not give them that opportunity in that game?
And I'm not necessarily defending this, but I think what we do see with Bruce Arena, and actually this was his downfall in 2006, is sometimes, and actually Landon Donovan had commented about this, he has too much loyalty to some of his players. But he likes to repay that loyalty.
Of course.
If you've done well under Bruce Arena, he's going to squeeze as much out of you as he possibly can.
Very true.
And as a national team coach, you got to be able to pull back from that at times.
When you really look at it and you try to break down this 2-game stint, is 4 points adequate?
Yes.
Can you be happy as a national team fan?
I think you can be happy. I think you still feel that the U.S. should have gotten 3 points last night. Mm-hmm. But can you be happy? Yeah, this was the goal that Bruce had set out. We want to get 4 points. CONCACAF is deceiving. Everybody around the world thinks, boy, if Germany played in CONCACAF, they would blow through all this competition. Maybe
it's
maybe
difficult
Germany would.
to play,
But when you're going down to Central America, playing in these conditions,
doesn't matter who you are.
It really doesn't.
Are we going to ever see regulations about field condition? I think we've had this debate before, but I don't know. I feel like there has to be a standard set for certain playable surfaces.
Yeah, the difficulty there is there is the surface itself, but then what about elevation? What about weather conditions?
Right.
I think there may be
certain things
too
you can't
many
help,
variables.
obviously.
Right.
But field condition, I feel like, is something you should maybe be able to put a little bit more time and effort and money into, but I don't know. All right, moving away from the national team and quickly focusing on the weekend that was in Major League Soccer. Only a couple of games taking place. The Portland Timbers drop a close one to the Columbus Crew, 3-2. Did you get an opportunity to catch some of this action at all from this game?
I did catch some of it. I was actually out to dinner with my wife and kids when the game was on, but I did sneak a few peeks at it.
Shh, that's the classic, phone under the table, yeah, honey. Uh-huh. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, she knew. She just rolled her eyes at me a few times.
What are you doing,
come
Simon? Come
on. Again, great energy from Portland. They're playing New England this coming weekend.
Yeah.
I
think ESPN. The one game the Revolution get on national television.
I do think we see Portland come back, Baxter, and have that energy. They get Nagbe back.
100%.
I know we're trying to talk about the games this past weekend. To be honest with you, I didn't get a chance to watch much of the other games. I kind of had them on in the background.
You didn't miss much, honestly.
No, all the other two were draws, right? New York Red Bulls. And
the Red Bulls drew 0-0, and then the Revolution beat Minnesota 5-2.
I did get to watch some of that game.
I wasn't able to watch it, but I was following it, on my phone, and literally every time I hit refresh, there was a new goal.
Yeah, the thing that
what is going on in Minnesota or New England?
The thing I took away from that game is, first of all, New England completely dominated that game. I mean, just from the first half, from what I remember watching, every time I'm looking at the game, New England is in the attacking third. Mm-hmm. Just pushing Minnesota
Juan Agudelo got named Player of the Week this week.
Well, and deservedly so. He was all over the place. He was in the right place at the right time all the time. A lot of soccer intelligence from him in that game.
I'm really hopeful that they actually they erase the fact that they just beat Minnesota, the worst team in the league, but they utilize and be like, look, guys, our offense was finally working. How can we actually go be successful now the rest of the way, especially now they have to go play for the worst team to arguably one of the best teams in Portland now. So, Lord willing, the Revolution keep their chemistry together and they go out with the same vigor and attack the Timbers in the same way they would have attacked Minnesota. So hopefully we'll see a competitive game.
I mean, especially you being a New England fan, you do want to see that this type of game brings some belief to them.
Yes.
At the same time, it was a very similar scoreline with Portland beating Minnesota United 5-1.
True.
So I was reading a stat that Minnesota United is on pace to have a goal differential over the season of 109.
I was about to say it's got to be somewhere in the hundreds, honestly, which is just so embarrassing.
And yet, well, I guess it actually, we talked about how it's interesting that their first brace as a team on the season was against the Colorado Rapids.
Right, yeah.
And their first point was against Colorado. But I think it does go to show, as we've talked about the last two seasons, how poor Colorado is with their offense.
They really are. They have a lot of issues that still have yet to get worked out. So, taking a quick glance really through the weekend coming up here, obviously Portland, New England, that's going to be a fun game. We'll have to make our official picks here off the air, unfortunately. But games to keep an eye on this weekend for sure. Houston and the Red Bulls. Bradley Wright Phillips actually just got re-signed to a new multi-year contract extension, so the Red Bulls is going to be consistent and strong for a much longer time. I'm going to be curious about the Vancouver Whitecaps Galaxy game, Columbus, Orlando, San Jose, New York. There's some good slates of action this weekend overall, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, the one thing I have to bring up, Baxter,
please.
If I know we've got about a minute left, I'd love to do our I Believes, or at least
absolutely.
Let me do an
Hit
I
it
Believe
up. Let's
here.
Go.
So, really quickly, my I Believe this week, Baxter, is that
this is fantastic. I see it on your screen, and I'm trying not to laugh.
The Phoenix Rising FC is going to win the USL this year because they signed, believe it or not, 39-year-old Didier Drogba.
How does this even happen? They're a USL side, and they've signed. I mean, it's kind of like a Tim Tebow move from a marketing perspective. You sign arguably one of the most recognized people in soccer history onto your team. So
well, and we saw him play well with Montreal. It's not like he scored 23 goals across all competitions when he was with Montreal.
That. I need a Phoenix Rising jersey now. All of a sudden.
Well, and that's what you wonder: is this their way of getting money? And Phoenix has talked about MLS aspirations. Well, this is one way to do that.
I wonder how much he's getting paid. Does the article say how much?
It does not. By the way, this is so we're not doing any type of illegal things. This is from lastwordonsoccer.com.
Okay.
It also goes on to talk about Sean Wright Phillips is playing with this team.
Oh my gosh.
Omar Bravo, who had played with Chivas USA, is on this team.
They're just taking everybody in.
Yeah. So it's
Landon Donovan, David Beckham. They're all coming out of retirement to play for Phoenix. This is like the all-star team of USL.
I hear that Gerrard is going to be leaving Liverpool. Breaking news.
Yeah, Messi just signed as well too. He said he's got a couple of games since he's banned for a couple of matches. He's going to go do a short stint with Phoenix Rising. Why not? Everybody come to Phoenix.
I'll tell you one thing. What I will say is instead of these MLS teams playing friendlies against some European teams that bring in their C teams, head to Phoenix. Play the Phoenix Rising FC. There's a great friendly for you.
That is amazing. I am actually going to pay attention to USL now just to see how Phoenix does every single week. All right, well, we got to run, unfortunately, but a very special thanks to Andy Davi of the Milwaukee Torrent for joining us, giving us some great insight. A special thanks to FC Kansas City's Shea Groom as well, too. Thanks to all of you that have been commenting and viewing and sharing and just continuing to build Two Up Front as a whole. We can't do it without you guys, so our deepest gratitude to all of you for everything that you continue to do. If you do miss this show, of course, you can get it on our website, twoupfrontsoccer.com. You can get it here on Brew Sports, the Brew Sports website, brewsportsnet.com, and of course, you can find it on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Spreaker.com as well.
And check us out on Facebook, where, of course, you can also see the show. And check us out on Twitter, at 2UpFrontSoccer. We're going to get this right this time. He is at Baxter Colburn. I am at Simon Crowvan.
All right, Simon Crowvan, a pleasure as always. We'll see you again next Wednesday. Sounds good. Looking forward to it with our manager being the one above. We are Two Up Front.